many people have read Bhagavad Gita, but many people have also difficulty to understand it. And for me, this book is written really in layman's language, everyday language. So it is very much easy to relate to our social issues, our personal issues. That is why I mentioned that Bhagavad Gita is universal and it is the guidebook of life, and also a lot of what do you call advice in parapsychology. So I would like to begin with the first chapter. As we know that the beginning of Bhagavad Gita started off as Arjuna's despondency, like what was mentioned by Dr. Hikam, where he finds himself in a disheartening, low-spirited, and even in a fearful situation when being faced in a war against his master, his grandfather, and his kins. I mean, imagine if we are in his situation. I'm sure that we would be like even worse off than he was, yeah? But what is interesting is that Guruji gave a very down-to-earth explanation in this book. Yeah, so in the first chapter, Arjuna Vishad Yoga, or the yoga of Arjuna's despondency, Guruji started off the chapter with an opening. I will just read it here. Towards excellence through depression, despondency, doubts, anxieties, helplessness, and mental and emotional restlessness. Yeah, so that was the opening of the first chapter. So let's see, how do you do that? How do you, go through to excellency through to excellence through depression and doubts and anxieties? Fear, anxieties, and our enemies are our enemies that don't lie outside of us, but the enemies are right here within each one of us. When that happens, we can't hear Krishna. And Krishna is our inner voice of hope within us. Arjuna is our mental, emotional combination of despair and hopelessness that we frequently experience in our day-to-day life. So for many, when we're faced with doubt, despair, hopelessness, and etc., we tend to get carried away by it. And we go down to the spiral of self-doubt and self-destruction. In psychology, you call it self-sabotage and all that. But luckily, Arjuna has Krishna, whom he can turn for advice. And I could relate so much with this chapter. I could relate with the situation very well. Because I remember, let me share a story with you. One day, we invited the Australian ambassador to Indonesia and Indonesia's former state minister to our television show. So we had a regular talk show that was aired nationally. So one day, prior to the program, our TV host suddenly sent us news that she sent us a message that she had a shooting schedule. By the way, she is also an actress and had very busy shooting schedule. And our team, of course, panicked, and tried to look for a replacement. Since it was such a short notice, of course, we could not find anyone to replace her. And since it was also difficult for us to get the Australian ambassador for a reschedule, so postponing the program was really out of the question. It was really an arduous task to get his schedule. So we were low-spirited, discouraged, and fearful not to want to offend the Australian ambassador and the former state minister, right? So we were like thinking, what should we do? And of course, since I do have a live Krishna, Anand Krishna in this case, and he turned to me in front of them and said, you do it. And of course, my friends immediately agreed, yeah, nodding their head. And while I was like, no, shaking my head, no. And I started to give, noble and moral excuses like Arjuna did. So imagine me in this chariot with Guruji and Krishna, and me as Arjuna, riding as the charioteer. So imagine that situation. I said no, with all the moral and noble excuses. I said, how can I do it? I've never done it before. I have never been a TV host, and I will only, I will only embarrass and tarnish our organization on national television. So I will offend also the ambassador and the former minister for my incapability and unprofessionalism and blah, 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 and also that, yeah. And of course, Krishna, in this case, Anand Krishna, said to me, where is this weakness coming from? You have spoken in front of dignitaries and large audience before, even on television. You've managed also to convince the defense minister to do things that was never done before. And here you are showing weakness. That is not you. That is not your Swadharma. So imagine I'm in this chariot with Guruji. After some convincing, lecturing, and motivating, and also he told me to meditate upon it. Of course, it didn't take 18 chapters to do that. I began to understand the nature of the situation. I finally rose to courage and confidence and just did it, just did it. At the end of the TV talk show, of course, I confessed to the ambassador and the former state minister that I was just a replacement and apologized for not doing them justice. But, to my surprise, they were amazed. They thought like I was a professional TV host, so voila, yeah. You see, same problem, different settings. I'm very lucky to have a living Krishna in my life. In this Bhagavad Gita, Guruji mentions that Krishna is our inner voice. Krishna is the spirit of the warriorship that is urging us not to give up. It is the voice that tells us not to fear. And Arjuna, the mental emotion within each one of us, often faces such dilemmas, such as the students, what Dr. Hikam was mentioning, and also in that film, Social Dilemma. And our inner voice is always courageous. Its message is very clear. Face all challenges in life with a smile. And that's what I did. I got up with a big smile on my face and let out a loud declaration. I can do this. I'm a professional host and it's my everyday thing. Easy as cake, yeah? As a piece of cake. And that's how I got my confidence. So that is what was meant by the opening on this chapter. Towards excellence through depression, despondency, doubts, anxieties, we are all afraid to face the unknown. I could never know whether I could have pulled it off or not, succeeded or failed. I mean, my face and reputation was there for the whole nation to see. So of course I was afraid, But once I meditated and focused within, of course, to focus within, and with the help of Guruji, I got all the guidance that I needed. I was not guided by my mind anymore. I just surrendered. I did not allow the outside force to influence me anymore, and I remembered my strength. Therefore, I would like to read a passage at the end of the book. It says, don't you allow yourself to drown in the sea of despair, O Arjuna. Go within, find solace there, find strength there, and face the challenges of life with a renewed energy. No matter how dark the clouds of apparent hopelessness, they are not there forever. They shall disperse. Focus on the sky beyond those passing clouds. So thank you for listening to me on this, my take on the first chapter. And I hope it will be easier for all of you to relate this version of Bhagavad Gita in your everyday life, right? And let us overcome our despondency and listen to a song titled Overcome by our children.